Hello, and today we've got former Hearts, Hibs, and Man United player Michael Stewart. Hiya, Michael. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Not too bad, Angus. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. So let's start off. What is your first memory of playing football?
My first memory of playing football is, I would imagine, like most kids, is running about in the garden, kicking a ball about with my dad and my brother, and and just endlessly being outdoors. It's much changed obviously nowadays, but aye, back then just out in my garden, kicking a ball around with my brother and my dad, and eventually, when I was still fairly young, going and playing with my local boys club with some of my mates that were obviously about the same age as me.
What was the first professional club you'd played for?
Well, the first professional club I played for was Manchester United. I left school when I was 16 to join Man United, and fortunately enough, I managed to go through the ranks of the youth team and the reserves, and then play for the first team as well. When I was still young and at school, very much again similar to what a lot of youngsters will experience themselves nowadays is going and training with some of the professional clubs as a schoolboy, and I did that with 7 or 12. I think I just turned 12. The first English club I went to was Spurs. I went down to London and trained with them. And not long after that, I went down to Manchester United for the first time. And Angus, I see you've got a Man United jersey hanging up in the background there. I don't know if that's deliberate or whether it's a club that you enjoy or you like, but they were at that time a club apart from everyone else. They obviously had Sir Alex Ferguson as the manager, and at 12 years old, I went down, and it was boys from all over Scotland, England, Ireland, Wales, and some from the continent as well. And you played amongst your peers, and I remember we were playing a 11v11 game, and I turned over and just looked at the side of the park, and the scout that looked after the east of Scotland was standing chatting to the manager, and it was just like, you're 12-year-olds, yet the manager's standing watching, talking to the scouts, and that was what set them apart from every other club, was the attention to detail from the manager in particular that permeated its way right through the club, and it made you feel like you were going to get an opportunity, because when you looked at the first team as well, you could see that they were full of guys that had been on that same path, and coupled with the fact that they were the best team as well. It was a tremendous combination.
You managed to make a few first team appearances for them. Who was the best player you played with at Man United?
Obviously, I'm sure, as you can imagine, it's a question that gets asked a lot. And for me, there's two guys that stand out for different reasons, but it's very difficult to put one ahead of the other for me. And those two it's Paul Scholes and Roy Keane. Now, wow. I think I saw some video recently with so many people talking about how good Scholes was. Guys that had obviously played with him, and he was just a craftsman. He was somebody that was so good at his craft. He was just technically brilliant, and like everybody else at Man United as well, his desire to win and win at all costs was huge. But it was the technical ability of him, right foot, left foot, crashing balls into the back of the net from every angle. His ability of striking the ball, his passing ability, short, long, just he could control the game. He really could control it. I remember one training session that sticks in my mind where we were playing a small-sided game, and there was a lot of I think it was like Japanese tourists that had been invited into the training ground, and they were standing watching training. Small-sided game, and it developed. It was, first of all, it was like 3 touch, then it was 2 touch, and then we started playing 1 touch. and you know, one touch, it was incredible. Scholes, he still managed to dictate the game, and there was one move, he picked the ball up from the goalkeeper, and he effectively just played 1-2s all the way down the pitch, and the ball came back to him, and it was sort of in the air, and he volleyed it, and it smashed off the underside of the crossbar and at the back of the net, and all the Japanese tourists in the back, as you can imagine, obviously the light cameras, they were just they were taking photos and just screaming and shouting because of this piece of skill that Scholes had. And Roy Keane was the other one that I just find very difficult to not include when somebody asked me who was the best, because he was the driving force behind, you know, such a successful club. He was the leader, and when you talk about will to win, you know, in regards to Scholes and everybody else, Roy Keane was the epitome of that. You know, genuinely win it all, and he just refused to be beaten at anything. You know, I used to play table tennis with him a lot, and I did manage to beat him, but it was, you know, like myself, I don't take kindly to being beaten, so it was a wee bit of a fierce contest from time to time. But just it, you know, I just tried to look back and think to myself that what was the right and wrong way, and I mean in regards to the way certain things were done. And I don't think there is a right or a wrong way, but the way that things were done at Man United was that Roy Keane set the standards, and everybody else, because they wanted to win so much as well, they you know, they were happy to follow and to join and to drive everything forward. He was an absolute machine with that in mind. He just wouldn't allow himself to be beaten at anything.
Were they players you'd look up to being a midfielder when you were younger?
Yeah, of course. You know, these are two of the best midfielders in the world, and you know, guys that you know, for, as I said earlier on, there are so many players in the first team that had come through the ranks that were on the same journey as, you know, I was on, and you know, obviously guys that I was, you know, coming through with as well. That was what made Man United different. You know, even as a kid, the first team would talk to you. They would, you know, there was a sense of everybody together. Whereas a lot of other clubs, there was a clear separation between the youth, the reserves, and the first team. So these guys, you know, you looked up to them, but equally they were there. They were wanting to help. So, you know, Scholes, he understood all that, and Roy was exactly the same. Roy, even though he hadn't come through the ranks at Man United, you know, he'd obviously been on a different path, coming from Ireland over to Notts Forest, and the path that he came through there, and he broke into the first team at Forest very, very young. But he was somebody that you know, I talked to a lot, and he was always keen to pass on advice. And I had a good relationship with him, but you know, that didn't stop him from losing the rag and going absolutely mental onto the pitch. I mean, genuinely, he'd sit in the change room, and I sat not too far from him, and we would talk about anything and everything. You know, he's a very, very switched on, intelligent guy, and you know, literally, you'd be 5-10 minutes later, you'd be out playing boxes, keeping possession, keep ball in the training ground, and if you made a mistake, he would jump on you and go absolutely mental. So there was a, and I think that was a good, you know, thing. There was a clear split between off the pitch and on the park, and one didn't have to affect the other. And you know,
When was the first time you were asked to sign an autograph?
two guys, I looked at guys in that position in the world. Oh Christ, I've got absolutely no idea. Well, you know, that's a lie. That's a lie, because it's a little bit surreal. But there was a competition, a tournament that I think still goes on over in Ireland, called the Milk Cup. It's a youth tournament with all the sort of big clubs, and we used to go over with Man United to the Milk Cup, and that was probably from about, you know, 13, 14-year-old. And it was a great competition, and there were so many, you know, fans there coming out to watch the games, and invariably at that point there was a lot of you know, signatures and autographs. But it was a little bit surreal because nobody knew who you were. You were just a youngster that was playing for Man United. But that was probably the first time.
What are the best and worst kits you've ever worn?
The best and worst kits. Well, it's a wee bit unfortunate, but I'm not sure it's the worst. But I always remember there was a Fila Scotland strip that had a terrible collar and a big. It was so old-fashioned, but not in a stylish retro way. It was just terrible, and it had a white pinstripe on it as well.
Yeah.
And I always just thinking, that playing for Scotland was just such a dream and such a great thing. But when you're pulling on this shirt, you're like, this isn't a proper Scotland jersey. This. And another one that I remember was really pretty poor was the Hearts jersey. My last season at Hearts, we had some really, really nice Umbro kit at Hearts, but then the last season they had this terrible collar as well, and the graphic that was across the sort of chest as well. It was just a bit like, yeah, it was disappointing. Those two were probably the worst. Whereas the best one was when, or some of the best ones were when Man United had moved from Umbro over to Nike, and some of those jerseys that they had to begin with, they were some really, because it wasn't the first time, but it was probably one of the biggest advancements of just like kit, the material, making sure that the sweat would get off your body and stuff like that. But the Man United jerseys when they swapped over to Nike they were really, really good.
Who's the best player you swapped shirts with?
Again, it's a tough one to figure out. I remember, I can't actually remember how I got it, but I remember of getting it was, and it was just a bit of a strange story beforehand, that the Man United game against Bayern Munich in the Olympic Stadium, and when I was in the squad, but I wasn't actually on the bench. I remember standing on the running track that went around the pitch, and I remember, I don't know if you're too young to remember this, but there was a guy who was going around a lot of big sporting events, and he was doing Formula One, but he was dressed up as like the finishing sort of marker, the flag. He went onto the track and he was waving the flag, and the drivers were all confused because it was like, that's not the last lap. He was at, I think he was at the Grand National as well, flagging the horses to start. And one of the first ones he'd done, and it might have been the first one, was stood on the end. He was in the full Man United kit, and he walked up the touchline and stood at the side of the team while they got the team photo before the Champions League game against Bayern Munich. And I was standing watching this, and I was thinking, who is that? Because it was you imagine the running track and in the pitch, it was like a fair distance away, and I'm thinking, who? There's too many guys. Who's that? And then I saw him walking away, and he walked down the touchline, jumped over the barrier, and just went into the stand. And I was like, what's going on here? And it was only the next day that there was obviously the photographers were taking the pictures, and it was on the back of all the newspapers, and they were trying to figure out what on earth is going on here. But anyway, the point of that was that I remember after that game, I think it was in the dressing room area after the match, I'd got Jens Jeremies, who was the Bayern Munich and German midfielder at the time, number 16. I got his jersey.
What's been the best moment of your footballing career?
That's a tough one as well. It's a tough one. Because I look back on my career, and the early parts of it were, very, very enjoyable. It was an upward trajectory, a lot of positives, and then coming back to Scotland and enjoying my time, back here for a lot of reasons, because I just enjoyed having a life away from think about my was fantastic. It was a game against Middlesbrough away from home, and again, just talking about the things that I was saying before about being surrounded by guys who'd been through the same pathway as me, and just getting so much good advice from those guys before the game. Remember, all of them, you know, everybody just obviously there to help you and to talk to you. And David Beckham just saying, you know, look, Michael, just play your normal game. That's, you know, how you've got here. Don't try and do anything different. The reason you're here is because the way you play. Just do your own normal thing. Scholes, all those guys that were, you know, there, Ryan Giggs. And the one that sticks in my mind was just as we were standing in the tunnel going out to the game, and Nicky Butty was pretty good pals with Paul Ince, who was the Middlesbrough captain at the time. And Paul Ince, again, I don't know if you remember, but he liked to walk out down the tunnel with his jersey off, and he would put his jersey on as he was walking out. And you know, he was a big, strong guy, and he walked past us, and we were sort of lined up, and but he just leaned over and said to me in my ear, he was like, "Look, Michael," he says, "that prick's going to try and smash you." He said, "So the first thing you do is make sure you smash him before he smashes you." And I was like, "Okay." And I just remember a few minutes into the game, Paul Ince was driving forward with the ball, and I came running across and slid into him and smashed him, but he came running over and he was like, well, I'll not swear, but there was a few expletives, and it was like, well done. It was the basic premise of it. And you know, these are good, you know, good memories, good people, some of the best players in the world that I was very fortunate with learning the game from. At an early stage.
What's the best stadium you played in?
Again, you know, look, very fortunate to have played in some really good stadiums, and you know, in Scotland here we've got some cracking, you know, stadiums. If you think about on a smaller scale, but you know, Tynecastle, obviously, so many people talk about how good Tyney is, and for good reason. You know, the pitch is normally a really nice surface to play on, and you know, now with the new main stand as well, it's a wonderful stadium. Even before with the old Archibald Leitch main stand, it was a cracking place to play. Then moving, you know, towards some of the bigger places, to Ibrox, Celtic Park, and Hampden. You know, these are good stadiums. And then, you know, obviously the place where I was brought up at Old Trafford, which is just phenomenal. You know, it's huge, it's cavernous. So these are all very, very, you know, good places to play football. But I don't know why, but the one that's always stuck out in my mind, I don't know if it was because it was a modern build when I played there briefly, was that we played in the Amsterdam tournament pre-season one year, not long after the Amsterdam Arena had been built, the Ajax's new stadium, and it was just, you know, Old Trafford was modern, but there was lots of it that were almost, it was a addition one bit after the Amsterdam. Match, wonderful stadium, atmosphere. Even in pre-season was raucous, and it was something that's always stuck in my mind, and it's one that you know, when I get asked that question, it's one that comes to my mind.
What was the last ever game you played in?
It was, it's funny, the reason I'm pausing is because there were at Sportscene where we're doing a sort of a wee pub quiz type thing, and that, and I think I actually got it wrong. I'd said it was, or thought it was Charlton against Huddersfield as well. But I thought, but it wasn't. It was Charlton against, oh jeez, I can't even remember. But it was a game that was at the Valley, Charlton's home ground. Yeah. So there you go. Pass. I couldn't even tell you, but it was a brief spell that I had at Charlton. That was the last professional game.
And just finally, when was the last time you had to pay for a ticket to go to a football match?
Very good question, Angus. Very good question. On it. In all seriousness, it would probably be, it wouldn't be a top flight big game. It would probably be like having gone to watch one of my mates or something like that, playing junior football or something like that in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. That would be the most likely that I've paid. Whereas obviously the job that I do to be able to go to games and not pay, and then when I've been playing football, obviously that's me. I'm playing the game rather than watching it. So before that, you're probably talking about as a kid, 12, 13-year-old, something like that, and I wouldn't have been paying. It'd have been my dad. So even longer.
Right, Michael, that wraps it up. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you.
Not a problem, Angus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.